Most engines of the early 1900s coughed, rattled, and barely kept cars moving. But then came something strange, an engine with 8 cylinders, arranged like 2 rows of soldiers, beating in perfect rhythm. It was so smooth, so powerful that it seemed alive. Some engineers thought it was unnecessary, even impossible to mass produce. Yet that moment gave birth to the V8, the engine that would power everything from fighter planes in World War I to the Mustangs and Corvettes that thundered down American highways, engines before the V8. At the dawn of the automobile, engines were simple. The very first cars often had just 1 cylinder, producing barely a few horsepower. These were enough to move a lightweight vehicle slowly across flat ground. But forget about hills or long distances. To get more power, engineers doubled up. Twin-cylinder engines arrived. Then came the 4-cylinder, which quickly became popular because it offered smoother operation and more usable power. By the late 1800s, there were even 6-cylinder and straight-8 designs. But these engines were very long, heavy, and difficult to package inside a car. Manufacturers needed something more compact yet powerful. And that's when the V configuration became attractive. In a V, cylinders are split into 2 angled banks, sharing a common crankshaft. This design dramatically shortens the engine while still allowing more cylinders. It was an elegant solution that would soon give birth to the mighty V8, the very first V8, 1904 France. The credit for the world's first true V8 goes to Léon Levavasseur, a brilliant French engineer. In 1904, he designed an 8-cylinder engine with a 90-degree angle between the banks. But here's the twist. It wasn't built for cars. Levavasseur was designing engines for airplanes and racing boats. His company, Antoinette, was pioneering early aviation, and they needed lightweight, high-power engines. Levavasseur's V8 displaced around 7.2 liters and produced 40 horsepower, staggering for the time. Remember, most car engines in 1904 made 10-15 horsepower at best. His engine used advanced features like overhead valves and water cooling, technologies well ahead of the curve. The Antoinette V8 went on to power several early aircraft, proving the design's efficiency and reliability. It also appeared in luxury speedboats where wealthy enthusiasts craved power. So while it wasn't a car engine, it was the first successful V8 in history, and it showed the world what was possible. The V8 enters automobiles. By 1905, automakers began experimenting with putting the V8 into cars. French brands like Roland Pellin and Renault built prototypes, and de Dion Bouton created a limited production V8 car in 1910. These were handcrafted machines for the rich, not something the average person would ever see. The engines were complicated, expensive, and required skilled mechanics. But they had prestige. Owning a V8 car in the 1910s was like owning a private jet today. Still, these were boutique efforts. For the V8 to matter globally, it needed to be mass-produced. That moment came in America. Cadillac's breakthrough, 1914. Enter Cadillac, part of General Motors. In 1914, Cadillac unveiled its 314 cubic-inch V8, producing about 70 horsepower. This was the first mass-produced V8 engine for cars, and it was nothing short of revolutionary. Cadillac's engineers solved major challenges like crankshaft balance, lubrication, and cooling. They used a 90-degree design with a cross-plane crankshaft, making it smooth and refined. The Cadillac V8 gave customers luxury car smoothness with effortless power. It was marketed as the ultimate in modern motoring, and Cadillac proudly called itself the standard of the world. Unlike earlier French prototypes, this was a car you could actually buy and maintain. The V8 was no longer a novelty. It was the new benchmark, technical genius behind the V8. So what makes the V8 so special mechanically? Firing order balance. With 8 cylinders firing in sequence, there's always power being delivered. That makes the engine smooth, with less vibration than a 4-cylinder. Compact power. Compared to a straight 8, the V8 was short and squat, fitting easily under hoods. This opened up design freedom for automakers. Torque delivery. V8s produced strong torque at low RPM, perfect for heavy luxury cars and later trucks. Scalability. Displacements could range from 3 liters to 8 liters and beyond. making it adaptable to everything from sedans to race cars. This versatility is why the V8 became the go-to engine for decades. Aviation and military impact. The V8's story wasn't just about cars. During World War I, V8 engines became crucial in aviation. The most famous example was the Hispano-Suiza 8, designed by engineer Mark Burkhardt. This liquid-cooled V8 produced up to 220 horsepower, powering Allied fighter planes like the Spad 3. Pilots praised it for being lightweight, reliable, and powerful. By the end of the war, the V8 wasn't just a curiosity. It was proven technology that had helped win battles in the sky. Racing with the V8. Motorsport quickly adopted the V8. By the 1910s and 20s, companies like Peugeot and Fiat ran V8-powered Grand Prix cars. The configuration offered excellent balance of power and compactness. Racetracks became proving grounds, and lessons learned in racing filtered back into production cars. This created the link between V8s and performance, a connection that still exists today. Ford's Flathead Revolution, 1932. If Cadillac put the V8 on the map, Henry Ford made it a household name. In 1932, Ford introduced the Flathead V8. For the first time, ordinary Americans could buy an affordable car with a V8 engine. Priced competitively, the Flathead produced around 65 horsepower and became an instant success. It was simple, durable, and loved by hot rodders who discovered it could be tuned for far more power. For millions of young Americans, the Flathead was their first taste of true performance. This democratization of the V8 created a cultural phenomenon. The deep, throaty rumble of a Ford V8 became the sound of America's roads. Why not a V6 first? You might wonder. Why did engineers jump to a V8 before the V6? The reason is partly mathematical and partly historical. A V6 requires an awkward 60 or 90-degree angle for balance, and early technology struggled to make it smooth. The V8, however, with its even firing order, naturally balanced itself better. It was easier to build a smooth-running V8 than a smooth V6 with the tools available in the early 1900s. This is why the V6 didn't become popular until decades later, when improved crankshaft designs and balancing techniques solved its roughness. The V8 as a cultural icon. From the 1930s onward, the V8 became more than just an engine. It became a symbol. In the 1950s and 60s, it defined the muscle car era. Mustangs, Camaros, GTOs, and Chargers all roared with V8 power. In hot rodding culture, the V8 was king, cheap to buy, easy to modify, and endlessly thrilling. In luxury cars, the smoothness of a V8 meant status and refinement. Even today, car enthusiasts get goosebumps at the distinctive burble of a V8 exhaust. It represents freedom, engineering brilliance, and raw power. The legacy of the first V8. Let's connect the dots. 1904, Léon Levavasseur builds the first V8 for aircraft. 1914, Cadillac brings the V8 to mass-produced cars. 1932, Ford makes the V8 affordable for the everyman. From there, the V8 went on to dominate racing, muscle cars, and luxury automobiles for the next century. Even as the world shifts to electric power, the legend of the V8 lives on. Collectors treasure them, restorers rebuild them, and car lovers celebrate them. It all started with that one French engineer who dared to put 8 cylinders together in a V shape and forever changed mechanical history. So the next time you hear the unmistakable growl of a V8, think back to 1904. From fragile airplanes to Cadillac Prestige, from Ford's Flathead to the muscle cars of the 60s, the V8 is more than an engine. It's a story of innovation, war, culture, and passion. And it's a story that began over 120 years ago with the world's very first V8.